Hi, this is Leah, and this is week 5. So, for our interactive advanced concept presentation, this week's topic is penny oxidation. So, basically, what we're going to be doing in this experiment is cleaning pennies. So, first, we need to understand why do our pennies change in their appearance? So, why are they starting to turn this gross, dark, green, brown type of color instead of the shiny copper color that they originally are? And the main reason behind this is oxidation. So oxidation is the process or result of being oxidized. And to be oxidized, that means to chemically combine with oxygen. So when it comes to pennies, pennies are made up of copper, and copper is combining with oxygen to then form copper oxide. So copper oxide is that layer which gives the pennies a different color, so either that green or brown, dirty color. So what's happening here is this is a redox reaction. So we have an oxidant and a reductant. So the oxidant is oxygen. So it is gaining electrons from the copper. So oxygen is being reduced. And then in turn, copper is being oxidized. So copper is losing those electrons, which are being taken by oxygen. So in this equation, we have the copper and the oxide, which ultimately form the copper oxide, which is the key player here. And the experiment that we will be doing today will be removing that, which we will see in 1 second. So, the materials that we need are tarnished pennies, salt, vinegar, water, non-metallic bowls, so I just use glass bowls, a 1/4 measuring cup, and a 1 teaspoon. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to add the vinegar, add the salt, mix these together, add the tarnished pennies, and then let these soak and see what happens. For my pennies, I tried to choose the ones that were the dirtiest or the darkest in color. There wasn't really any other rhyme or reason other than that. I just tried to pick the grossest looking ones. So first we placed the 1/4 cup of vinegar in the glass bowl. We added a teaspoon of salt to the bowl, and then I mixed it. I added all of the tarnished pennies and let them soak for about 3 minutes. And then I just waited and saw what happened. So what happened? The pennies were not as dirty. So I definitely would not say they were renewed back to normal. But they definitely appear a little bit shinier and a little bit more of a copper color as opposed to this dark brown with some hints of green in there. So maybe one thing I could have done is maybe leaving it in longer. Maybe then the pennies would have gotten a little bit shinier and a little bit cleaner. So why did this happen? So as I mentioned before, the key player is the copper oxide. So the copper oxide is now gone. That is why they look shinier. In this case, maybe they aren't completely rid of the copper oxide because they're still a little bit dirty, but it's definitely removed some of them, some of the copper oxide. So we had salt and vinegar. And vinegar is made up of acetic acid, which is diluted in water. So all of the reactants that went on in this equation, in this chemical reaction, are acetic acid, water, which that comes from the vinegar, sodium chloride, which comes from the salt, and then copper oxide, which is what is on the dirty pennies. That's that layer on top of the pennies. And all these three reactants together ends up dissolving the copper oxide off of the pennies. So once I took the pennies out of the vinegar and salt solution, I put them into water to stop the reaction, and then I just dried them on paper towels, and I saw that they were cleaner, which would make sense because this copper oxide should have been dissolved off the pennies. And as I said before, they definitely aren't crystal clean. There's still some residue on there, so there's probably still some copper oxide left over. And if I would have left them in longer, or maybe my ratios of ingredients were off, then we would have gotten those shiny crisp new looking pennies. Alright, thank you for listening.